Hi everyone, welcome to HR Debatable. My name is Nelly Valinden and I'm your host. And today I'm being joined by two fantastic guests, Tim Whitley and Alex Seiler. Hi Tim and hi Alex.
Hi there.
Hi Nelly.
Alex, perhaps you can introduce yourself in a few words.
Sure. So I'm Alex Seiler. I am just, as part of background, I'm half British, half Swiss, and I was born and raised in Hong Kong. And I have been in the US for 20 years now, so I'm a hodgepodge of many things. I've been in the people in HR space for 15 plus years, closer to 20, but I don't like to say that. And most recently have been a chief people officer, a full-time chief people officer. Now I'm doing that in a fractional capacity. And I also advise 3 startups, all of which are in the HR technology space. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Tim, perhaps you could also introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Tim Whitley. I live in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I work at the Oklahoma State University. I'm the director of HR technology. So I've worked in HR tech, HRIS as a practitioner for about 10 years now. I really enjoy this field and love talking about it. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you both very much. Now, before we get started, for people who are tuning in and don't know HR Debatable yet, let me quickly explain what we are going to do. In HR Debatable, as the name suggests, we debate about various HR and world of work related statements. I will give a bit of context, then I will share the statement, and then both Tim and Alex, you choose a position, either in favor of or against. Of course, you will then get the opportunity to defend your position so that we have, hopefully, an actual debate. And I might play the devil's advocate every now and then to spark the debate further. Are there any questions?
Nope.
No.
Then let's go. All right, our first theme today is around HR tech. I heard you both mention HR technology, so I think this is a perfect one to start with. We're going to talk about gamification. Gamification is the integration of games or game-like elements into business processes to boost employee participation and engagement. It's often used in HR to streamline the onboarding process, to increase the effectiveness of training and development programs, and to elevate employee performance. Often mentioned benefits of adding gamification elements to these processes include improved motivation, a reduced dropout rate of training, improved knowledge retention, and an enhanced work environment. Gamification, however, is no miracle solution to solve organizational problems. Yes, gamified practices can be fun, but they won't solve issues such as team tensions, poor culture, and low levels of engagement. They can only enhance the positives when employed well. This begs the question of the added value that gamification brings to various HR processes. Is there any? Or is it merely a fun distraction from serious fundamental issues? Are organizations trying to use gamification to put a proverbial band-aid on a bullet wound? And this brings me to our first statement of today. Gamification has no place in serious HR processes. All right. Alex, I'm going to start with you. What do you vote?
Oof, that's a tough one. I'm going to say yes, but maybe.
Thank you. Tim, what do you vote?
So you're saying yes, it has no place in serious processes, or yes, you support gamification?
Yes, it does not have a place in serious processes, but maybe, well, I know we're not meant to elaborate, but maybe it still has a place in an organization.
Okay. Then I will say no. It has no place in serious processes.
All right, nice. I like this, especially for our first statement. Okay, Alex, I'm going to come back to you first, of course. Please elaborate as to your yes, but maybe. I'm very curious.
So, oh God, now I'm scared. I understood it incorrectly. So I was saying yes to it doesn't have a place in gamification. So, I mean, in serious processes. So maybe, so the way I would look at it is, I think as you kind of highlighted, Neely, is that I think it is fun. I think it can add value to maybe existing processes or modernize some of them. I also think that gamification is probably for a subset of employees. Not everyone's going to engage in that kind of mentality. So I don't think you're necessarily going to get the majority of people engaging in some of these things, right? If you think about gamification, it's a very specific thing. It's growing. A lot of people do it outside of work, whether or not it's integrated in HR. But I do think ultimately it does take you away, especially if you're a CPO. This is not an area where you're necessarily going to be spending a lot of your time. Maybe your team will think of it as a process that they could introduce or help existing processes. However, it's not going to move the needle as far as like bigger roadblocks that you alluded to, like workplace tension, like how does AI overall affect what we do on a day-to-day basis. I think there's bigger things that need to be discussed to shape how we move things further as far as the future of work. So fun thing, is it going to move the needle? Not so much.
Thank you. Tim, let's go back to you.
Yeah, so I'll argue I'll argue in favor of gamification. I think that if done right, and I have not experienced directly gamification that's been done right, but I think if done right, gamification can enhance, especially like learning processes. There have been studies that have shown that people are more likely to learn and to take part in learning when it's fun, it's different. There's some challenge involved, but I think it has to be done correctly. I agree with Alex in that it's got to have specific use cases. But I think the big thing is it has to have leader buy-in. It can't be something that they're directing. For instance, a sales team, you all need to take this training, but the leaders aren't gonna take part. I think for any training to be successful or any initiative, people need to see their leaders doing it. And I think especially with something like gamification, if you don't see your leader taking part, you're going to feel like this is something that's going to look bad on you if you're spending too much time. So I think that if done right, I think it could be a really powerful learning tool in an organization.
I'm going to add two things, if that's okay. So based off what Tim said. So one thing, I think he mentioned that it would enhance things like learning processes. The question is, are we at that place where enhance is all we need? To me, we need to be reimagining things as part of the future of work. Enhancing is not enough to kind of shift the narrative about where we need to go in the future. So I think for me, the idea of enhancing is not enough anymore. You need to create processes and introduce things that go a step further. I do agree with Tim, or just to add on to it, about the leader buy-in. The other piece, because you're only going to get leader buy-in if they can actually see the ROI and the data that supports introducing gamification as well. So otherwise, you're going to really struggle from a change management perspective to try and introduce that, and you'll be banging your head against a brick wall.
Tim, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think to the point about enhancing, I think talking about reimagining processes is good. For a lot of organizations I've worked with, they're not there. It's going to be like a baby step type thing. And so I think change is going to be iterative. It's going to be slow. So if you can introduce things like gamification that are kind of steps in the right direction, maybe in the future you could have bigger kind of rebuilding type conversations. But I know for a lot of organizations I've worked with, that if you say we're going to take down our training and development program and build it from scratch, you're going to get a lot of pushback. So I see this as a way to, like I said, enhance an existing system.
I have a follow-up.
Of course, please.
So as somebody that has completely reimagined a people function, I don't disagree with what Tim says in that there are certain transformed it. I take the sort of 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 approach. Like you have to take gradual steps when you're reimagining things anyway. You have to walk before you can run. But there also is an acknowledgement in that I have noticed that when you go into an organization, there's certain things there they are potentially already doing they're doing well, and you can take to the next level or completely redesign. And there's other things that you, to your point, can move from you need to start at the baby steps level. So I think the one thing I would challenge you on is like, it doesn't mean that everything is moving at a baby step pace. Certain processes could be way more advanced and surprise you, and other things could be at their infancy stage. So I challenge you that. Tim, challenge you that.
Nice. Nice. I think these are really, really valid points, because I was first listening to Alex and then to Tim, and I was thinking from it, both of you saying your viewpoints, like, yeah, exactly, makes sense. And then I was thinking, yeah, that also makes sense. So this was definitely very nice, because I can 100% see the point of some organizations not being ready yet for these big steps. And then, they might want to try a bit of gamification here and there and see what it does. I get that. At the same time, I also absolutely get the point of, are we really already at the stage where we only need enhancements, or perhaps we actually need some complete reimagining of certain things? And then we're coming back to the middle again. I think, Alex, you were mentioning that, is that in some organizations, probably, well, likely, I was actually going to say, some things will be maybe very developed already and it's going very well. And yeah, there we might need some slight enhancements, whereas other areas we might need to completely rethink and reimagine what we are going to do there.
Yeah.
So thank you both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just going to add, well, one, that it's great that you didn't have to play devil's advocate, because there was just a natural debate there. But also, I mean, we all have seen various stats that have come out around employee satisfaction and engagement being at some of their all-time low. And that also highlights, to the point, in my mind, are enhancements enough? Are they going to shift the needle enough? Because you're going to continue to lose people at a pretty quick rate if you don't do more than what you did in the past, right? And I appreciate also, though, Tim's point that every business, their maturity level is at a different point, and you have to be sensitive to that. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to challenge the status quo with leaders as best as you can as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, to tack onto that, one of the things that I've read about gamification, and I it's not just gamification, it's a lot of things, but it's kind of could be used as a Band-Aid, or like we don't want to pay our people better or offer them better benefits, so we're going to try to do these fun perks that don't cost as much money. And so I think that in that regard, it's not a substitute for a bad culture, for poor pay, for poor leadership. You're not going to fix those things by putting some games into people's work.
Yeah. And I go back to the age-old adage of, the old school sort of tech companies, when the big driver to come work with them was free food and, all snacks and perks. And, like people have said now, we don't care about those things. We care about how you're making our lives better fundamentally. And to your point, Tim, I think that some of these things become distractions or masks from the actual issues that are going on in the workplace.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. I'm going to wrap up this first fantastic debate by saying that we are not convinced about gamification.